Okay, back on the Rich Van Tassel channel, giving you a breakdown of yesterday's Thanksgiving games. All three of the games I missed, I was dead wrong on all of them. We'll start with the Philadelphia Eagles, who were trounced by the Detroit Lions, 45-14. Philly drops to 4-7. Detroit improves to 4-7. The box score for the visiting Eagles: Mark Sanchez, 19 of 27, 199 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Kenjon Barmer, 7 rushes for 30 yards, 4.3 yards per carry. DeMarco Murray, 14 for 30, 2.1 yards per carry. Overall, 25 of 68, 2.7 yards per carry. You're down that much, though. You're going to abandon the run, and that's what the Eagles did. Jordan Matthews, 3 receptions for 60 yards. Trey Burton, 2 for 49. Darren Sproles, 4 for 21. Jordan Matthews had a tight end. Mark Sanchez fumbled and it was lost. The Eagles had 2 sacks, no interceptions, and no kick returns, and only 3 yards in the punt return on 2 returns. Matthew Stafford was sensational, 27 of 38, 337 yards, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. Amir Abdullah running the ball, 16 carries, 63 yards. That's 3.9 per carry. Joique Bell, 7 for 25. Altogether, 30 for 108, 3.6 yards per carry. Joique Bell had the only touchdown. Calvin Johnson had a field day when the rookie cornerback row was put on him. We'll get into that in a minute. 8 receptions, 93 yards, 3 touchdowns for Johnson. Theo Riddick, 5 for 62, and a touchdown. Golden Tate had 7 receptions for 50 yards and 1 touchdown as well. Ezekiel Ansah recovered the fumble of Mark Sanchez. He also had 3.5 sacks, so a big day for him. 6 sacks total of Mark Sanchez. Amir Abdullah had a 25-yard kick return and nothing really of note in the punt return games. Now, Detroit, you got to credit them. They've won 3 straight games. They haven't given up on their season. Obviously, the wild card is still a lofty goal for them and would be highly unlikely, but they're still being professional and they're playing out the string. As for the Philadelphia Eagles, a lot of problems. Their offense is just not clicking. DeMarco Murray is not fitting this running style of offense. That's pretty obvious. And this was showed just the stubbornness of Chip Kelly and his coaching staff yesterday. Their cornerback was hurt, Nolan Carroll, who was marking up Calvin Johnson, so they put the rookie row on Calvin Johnson, and he was getting torched the whole game. And Troy Aikman obviously made note of it, but you could see it from a mile away. They were not sending help in his direction. I'm surprised by it, but that's what these Eagles coaches do. They're very stubborn, and they'll do whatever they want, and it cost them dearly yesterday. So the Eagles still technically in that division race. We'll see how they respond from a game like this. They have a lot of work to do. They have some extended time off. So we'll see how they can improve from here on out. But a lot of questions for the Philadelphia Eagles. On now to the Carolina Panthers. They went and beat down the Cowboys 33-14. Panthers are now 11-0. The Cowboys dropped 3-8. Obviously, the big news was Tony Romo. He's injured. He's going to be out for the rest of the season after re-injuring his collarbone, his clavicle, that is, the same one that he injured against the Eagles. That kept him out for 7 games. For the Panthers, Cam Newton, 16-27, 183 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Jonathan Stewart running the ball, 21 for 68, 3.2 yards per carry. 12 Newton, 12 for 45, 3.8, 1 touchdown. Altogether, 37 for 129, 3.5 yards per rush, 1 touchdown. Jericho Cotchery, the top receiver, 5 for 73. Greg Olsen, 5 for 70. Cam Newton fumbled, but it was not lost. They had they had 2 sacks. They had 3 interceptions. 2 of them were returned for touchdowns. Luke Kuechly had 2 of the interceptions. Kirk Coleman had the other that was returned for a touchdown. And nothing of note in the kick or punt return games. Graham Gano was 4 for 5 kicking field goals. For the Cowboys, Romo was 11 for 21 for 106 yards. No touchdowns and 3 interceptions before he went out. Matt Castle came in, went 13 of 19 for 93 yards and a touchdown. No running at all against this Carolina defense. Robert Turbin, 2 for 11. Darren McFadden, 10 for 11. Altogether, 14 for 31, which is 2.2 yards per carry. Darren McFadden was the top receiver, 4 for 45. Cole Beasley, 6 for 44 and a touchdown. Josh Norman shut down Dez Bryant. A lot of talk going between the two of them. 2 receptions for 26 yards for Bryant. Only 1 sack. It was by Tyrone Crawford. No interceptions, no kick returns for the Cowboys, and Lucky Whitehead had an 8-yard punt return. So the Panthers continue to improve. Again, yesterday they didn't have to do much offensively. They got 2 defensive touchdowns. That's big. You can't say that the Cowboys wouldn't have had a shot had they not given up two interception returns for touchdowns. Romo clearly looked rusty before he got hurt. I didn't see much of the Dolphin game last week, so I'm not sure how rusty he was in that one, but it's to be expected. But he's out for the season now, so they'll turn to Matt Castle to finish out the string. Panthers continue to roll for the Cowboys. Obviously, the playoffs are almost a certain no at this point. We'll see how they play it out the rest of the year. I would hope they don't play for a draft pick. I'm not one of the people who likes paid professionals to lose. However, you don't know what they're going to do, but they're going to turn to Matt Castle, see what they can improve upon for the rest of the year, especially defensively, and then pick it up from there going into next season. And then finally, the Chicago Bears, very impressive win on the road over the Green Bay Packers, 17-13. Chicago is now 5-6, doing everything they can to keep their playoff hopes alive. Green Bay drops to 7-4, and they've lost 3 of their last 4 games. For the visiting Bears, Jay Cutler, 19 of 31, 200 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Jeremy Langford running the ball, 12 for 48. That's 4 yards per carry, exactly 1 touchdown. Matt Forte, 15 of 44. Overall, 31 of 101, 3.3 yards per rush. Alshon Jeffrey, the top receiver, 7 catches for 90 yards. Marquise Wilson, 4 for 44. Mark Mariani, 3 for 35. Mariani had a couple big first downs where he made moves after the catch to get the additional yardage needed, where he would have been stopped short had he not done that. Jay Cutler did fumble. It was not lost. Lamar Houston recovered a fumble. 2 sacks belonged to Willie Young and Lamar Houston. Tracy Porter had a big interception in this game, was playing very well all game long. Deontay Thompson had a 37-yard kick return. Mark Mariani only 7 yards on 2 punt returns. For the Packers, Aaron Rodgers, 22 of 43, 202 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Eddie Lacy broke out of it, 17 for 105. He did have a big fumble in this game. James Starks, 7 for 39, altogether 28 for 177, which is 6.3 yards per rush. So the Packers ran the ball very well. Randall Cobb, 6 for 74. He was marked up by Tracy Porter most of the night, so kind of a push either way. Both played well. James Starks, 4 for 41. Eddie Lacy, 4 for 34 and a touchdown. Eddie Lacy had a big fumble, as we just discussed. He was lost. Randall Cobb and J.C. Treader also fumbled, but they were not lost. They only had 1 sack, which belonged to Quentin Rollins. No interceptions. Jeff Janis had 2 returns for 82 yards. One of them was about 68 yards, though, but that's still, or 64 yards, that is. 41 yards per return average. Randall Cobb, nothing of note in the return game. Mason Crosby made both of his field goals. So the Bears, you really got to start giving Jay Cutler his credit for this year. He's stopped turning the ball over, and he's done a very good job of that. So I'm eating crow when it comes to Jay Cutler. The Bears altogether got off to a bad start, but have kept fighting, kept their focus on what they're doing, and they're up to 5-6. And certainly, it's not incredibly likely, but they do have an outside shot at the playoffs now, especially with the way the Atlanta Falcons are struggling. As for the Packers, they've now lost 3 of 4 games. Oh, we also want to give John Fox a lot of credit for the Chicago Bears, their head coach, one of the more underrated coaches. But now on to the Packers. They've lost 3 of the last 4. The conditions may have played a factor in the offensive game yesterday. As you saw, both quarterbacks had a lot of incompletions, so that's part of it. But their offense is just not clicking. We'll see if Mike McCarthy takes the play calling back over. But at this point in the season, you don't know about that. But things may go downhill for Green Bay. I don't expect them to miss the playoffs, but they certainly have a lot of figuring out to do as far as what they're going to do offensively. Defensively, they played very well. So we'll see how the adjustments they make, and especially if Mike McCarthy takes over the play calling for the rest of the season. All right, so that's it. We're going to try to get the Sunday's game picks up to you most likely tomorrow, Saturday, which will be the 28th. Be sure to stay tuned for that. And we will enjoy the rest of your weekend, I suppose. That's all I have for now. We will do that. Like we said, the Sunday game picks, and then get on from there. So thanks so much, and have a good weekend.